Yo, what's up, guys? We're going to go through some bets. So we got some decent looking plays on PrizePicks, also Underdog Fantasy, all down to Braden Luck. I think all these plays were from the live streams. But what we're going to do is we're going to go through some plays for today. And PrizePicks has a promo. Every Friday, they run this promo where essentially your first bet of the day is risk-free up to $20. So you place a bet. If it loses, you get your money back up to $20 or $25, I actually think it is. So we can look for some plays on PrizePicks as well. And then you can see we're projected at least to have two very close games in the MLB. The Rangers are just minus 102 favorites. The Phillies are only small favorites. So those should be pretty good games. But anyways, what we can do is we can head over to PrizePicks, kind of take a look at what we got going on. And again, all this optimizer does, this fantasy optimizer, is, all these sports books, PrizePicks, all these platforms, Underdog Fantasy, there's so much stuff you can bet. There's limitless stuff we could go with. So this tool is really just scanning the market and trying to point out discrepancies. Man, so you can see there's not a lot of value on PrizePicks right now. So maybe we start on Underdog Fantasy and then we'll go back to PrizePicks. And we can take a look here. So Underdog Fantasy has some pretty good plays, which is great for us. So the first play it's recommending is Jahmyr Gibbs, no touchdown. So we can take a look at this play. And again, on Underdog Fantasy, like what makes these platforms interesting, PrizePicks, Underdog Fantasy, is they have fixed payouts, right? Like on PrizePicks, on Underdog, any two picks you go with, you're getting a 3x payout. It doesn't matter if you take soccer picks, whatever. Any two picks, you select, you're going to be getting a 3x payout, overs, unders. So essentially, like this platform, it all just boils down to what percentage of your picks can you win. So if you look at Jahmyr Gibbs, all the sports books have him heavily favored to go under, right? Every single book has him, pretty big favorite to not score a touchdown. Fliff has him minus 140, Barstool minus 145. So all these books are telling us, hey, Jahmyr Gibbs is more likely to not score a touchdown. Some books like Caesars, they only post one-way markets. Like you can bet on Gibbs to score, but you can't bet on him to not score. So you really want to, we want to look at these books that have two-way markets. They're posting odds on an under as well. And you can see like Penny, which is known to be one of the sharpest, one of the smartest sports books, they have Gibbs as a minus 151 favorite to not score a touchdown. So, all these books have Gibbs favored to not score. So it's like, okay, that seems like a pretty good play that we can go with and start out our entry with. And then here's another one. So we have Tennessee, Alabama this weekend. So we got some good college football games. And you can see OddsJam is recommending, that we take his under 4.5 receptions for Squirrel White. What a name. But anyways, 11 versus 17. Alabama, pretty big favorite. But again, like even if you don't use FanDuel, this is still a sports book. It's still a data point, right? Like they have the line at 3.5. So we obviously don't want to take Squirrel White's over 4.5 receptions because this is a $10 billion company. They, they're really good at setting lines, right? So we want to follow the data, right? They have the line at 3.5. They have the line lower than Underdog Fantasy. So that indicates to us like, hey, we want to take the under, right? We found this line discrepancy. Other sports books, FanDuel has the line at 3.5. Barstool, it looks like they have the line at 4.5, but they have the under super heavily favored. So again, like on PrizePicks, on Underdog, I have this little spreadsheet that kind of breaks down the math behind Underdog Fantasy. Is on Underdog. Again, they have these fixed payouts. They have pretty good payouts, though, for these 3-pick entries. They're giving us a 6x payout. So any 3 picks you select, you're getting a 6x payout. Whereas PrizePicks, they only give you a 5x payout. Any 3-pick entry you create, you're getting a 5x payout. So it does kind of matter on these platforms, like how many picks are you going with. But, any 3 picks, we're getting a 6x payout. So what does it take to be profitable on Underdog is you have to win your picks. You have to win these over-unders like Gibbs over-under, to score a touchdown or to not score a touchdown. You got to be able to win these higher or lower plays above 55% of the time. And if you can do that, you're going to be profitable on these platforms. It's not like easy, right? We got to win 57% of our picks, only losing 43%, right? If you're winning 57% of your over-unders, that means you're only losing 43%, and your ROI on Underdog long-term would be 11%, which, we can do, and that's what we're looking for, but it's not like easy to do. Underdog's business model is they assume most people don't have an edge. And if you don't have an edge, you don't have an advantage, you're only going to win these over-unders, about 50% of the time. You're going to win 50%, lose 50%. You don't have an advantage, no edge. You're going to win 50%, lose 50%. But anyways, first pick we like is Gibbs, no touchdown. All the books have his under heavily favored. Then we got Squirrel White under. And then we have a CS2 play. So again, what kind of stinks about esports is when you compare it to betting on, let's say, the NFL or something like that, is when you're betting on the NFL, I mean, you have dozens, hundreds of sports books in some cases that are posting lines on a game, So like for Lamar Jackson rushing yards, I mean, right, we have all these sports books, Ballybet, Barstool, Bet Online, Caesars, $10 billion company. Like you have all these books setting lines. So you have a ton of data points on where the line should be set. Whereas in esports, it's just like not as many books post lines, so we don't have as many data points. But did they already lock this line? It looks like they just locked it as I was pulling it up. So we'll maybe have to refresh here. Some of these plays, they move quickly. Well, it looks like they still have it up. So they had his line at 32. You can see JockMKT has the line at 30.5. Again, this may not be a sports book you use, but it's still a sophisticated book, taking bets, moving around lines based on where action's coming in. Like Hot Streak has the line at 28.5. So it's like, okay, we probably want to take Brocky under 32. So that can be our fourth pick. Or our third pick, I apologize. And then we can see okay, are there any other picks we want to go with? Maybe we can find something halfway decent. So some of these plays I'm already on, so we can skip them over. But, here we go. We got a nice little 3-pick entry on Underdog Fantasy, and we can lock it in, right? Just find player props that are winning above 55% of the time, and you're going to be profitable on Underdog, right? I'm not saying this play on Gibbs is a lock, nothing like that. It's just so you can see Underdog put the line back up, so we were able to bet it. So here we go. We got our 3-pick entry. And again, it's not like this play on Gibbs is guaranteed to win. Not at all what I'm saying. It's just literally, if you look at every data point we have, all these sophisticated books setting lines, they have better models than you, better data feeds than you. And you got to remember too, everything is baked into sportsbook odds, like Pinnacle right here, Pinnacle, however you want to think about it. It's not available in the US, so it's not like I'm betting on it. But Pinnacle is known to be the sharpest sports book, the smartest sports book. So you want to put weight into their odds. They're constantly moving around lines, lineup changes, all that type of stuff moves around the market. Like if you look at, Underdog Fantasy, for example, they have MLB lineups and stuff like that. Like all this stuff moves around lines. When the Astros release their starting lineup, for the game, that's going to affect the Rangers pitcher. Heaney or whoever it was who didn't last very long yesterday. But, right, when the Astros release their starting lineup, if there's any, thing that's a little surprising to the market, you may see a pitcher's strikeout line have to move, right? Or his walks line or his player outs line. All this stuff, everything's baked into the market. Lineups, weather, stuff like that. Like you hear people say I'm going to be on the under for this game because it's going to be snowing. It's that's baked into the market. You can see for whatever reason, lines have been moving towards the Packers team total on Pinnacle, right? All these books, they all set lines independently. They all want to be unique. So they all also have to update lines. So lines are moving towards the Packers team total going over. You can see it's moved from -109 to -125 on Pinnacle. So maybe a player who was questionable is no longer questionable, or maybe a player for the Broncos defense is now questionable. There's a lot of reasons the market can move. Maybe it's weather, right? The weather is projected to be better. Who knows? But anyways, what we can do is we can go here. And this seems like a pretty good anytime TD bet on FanDuel. I was taking a look at this yesterday. Allen Robinson touchdown, plus 550. Again, there's like limitless crap we can bet on all these sports books. So all OddsJam is trying to do is point out, hey, here's a discrepancy, just so it's easy for us to find value. So if you look at like Allen Robinson, most sports books have this line around like, plus 300-ish. Plus 400, I guess, on some sports books. FanDuel giving us plus 550. That seems halfway decent. But anyways, let's create a little PrizePicks 5 flex. So we got our first play on Underdog Fantasy. Good to go. And then we can go over to PrizePicks. So a lot of these esports plays, like you can see right here, this CS2 play, like in general, I just skip these over. Like you can see here, there's a discrepancy. Underdog has the line at 35, JockMKT 33, but you only have 2 data points. It's not really clear like which sports book is screwing up. So these plays in general, I just kind of skip over unless the discrepancy is really big and you can middle bet it. So sometimes you'll see massive discrepancies where JockMKT has a line at like 25 and Underdog's 35. And if that happens, you can always middle bet it. Hit the over 25 on one sports book, hit the under 35. And it's all possible, again, because all these books try to set their own lines. They set lines independently. So we can catch them when they're sleeping, when they're screwing up. So anyways, we can go back here. And we can take a look at PrizePicks. So we won our first bet of the day on PrizePicks. Obviously, to be a game, for today, there's still not a ton of stuff available. I mean, we'll be able to find something. You can see there's some plays on ParlayPlay as well. So again, I always recommend get as many of these platforms as possible. Like this play was on Underdog, right? We got a great bet down on Underdog. We'll get some good bets on PrizePicks here in a second, but PrizePicks doesn't have Squirrel White's line at 4.5 reception. They don't have Brocky at 32. So the more books you have, you're just giving yourself, more profitable betting opportunities. And most of these books have, pretty lucrative sign-up bonuses too. Like you can see this platform, ParlayPlay. It's like you sign up, they give you a $100 deposit match. They give you free money for signing up. I mean, what's better than that, right? But anyways, let's go here. See, is there anything on ParlayPlay? So it looks like ParlayPlay actually has a fair amount of good bets available right now. So we can take a look right here. So the first play it's recommending is caps over 4.5. So all the other data points have the line higher. And you can see this platform literally just following the data. They only have a $60 max bet size. I've only been using it for 4 months, up $6,600 profit, like a 25% ROI. Again, just following the data. Nothing complicated. The data never lies. But anyways, the first play we want to take is caps over 4.5. Other books have his line at 5.5. So it's okay, that play seems pretty good. And then we have Preston Stone under 22.5 rushing yards. So this is for SMU. I believe that's the quarterback. Yep. So we want to take under or over. And again, it seems crazy to not talk about sports that much when you're betting on sports, but again, you got to remember, even if I love watching sports, but I know I'm never going to create a better model than Caesars Sportsbook. So I'll find good bets on Caesars, when I can find them screwing up versus the rest of the market. But I don't just think I can outsmart the market, right? Oh, SMU minus 23.5. That's not how you want to bet. You can always skip over plays. So this tool, the positive EV tool, right? It just points out plays with value. Pretty simple. This is kind of the starting point I use for finding my bets. But maybe whatever, if you're an Arizona State fan, maybe you're oh, they're not going under. You can always just skip over certain plays, but still finding value, finding plays with an edge. That's really the key to making money, sports betting. And it's pretty simple concept, but if you're placing bets on FanDuel at minus 118, when there's other sports books, Caesars offering plus 100, you're getting ripped off, and you're never going to make money if you're getting ripped off. Or Illinois, Wisconsin, right? If you're placing bets on the over 20.5 at, minus 110 odds on DraftKings when another sportsbook is offering plus 106, you're getting ripped off. Like, you're never going to make money if you're just constantly getting ripped off. It's like being a day trader. If you have to buy every stock at, 1.5 times the price, you're not going to be a good day trader or investor if you're getting ripped off. And again, what's crazy about the stock market versus sports betting markets is just this market is so fragmented. This is the price of Facebook, right? You go to Fidelity, E-Trade, Robinhood, whatever. You're going to see the price is 312.15. Whereas in sports betting, like, it's crazy. Allen Robinson to score a touchdown is plus 550 on FanDuel, plus 290, like literally double the odds almost between Hot Streak and FanDuel and DraftKings and FanDuel, right? Caesars has this plus 270. So you're literally getting over 2x the odds on FanDuel. So the market is so fragmented, inefficient, all these books setting lines independently. But anyways, so we look at this play on Preston Stone. Caesar Sportsbook, they have his line at 19.5 with the under heavily favored. So you also want to consider the juice. They have his line at 19.5 with the under heavily favored. And again, ParlayPlay is a platform. It's, just like PrizePicks. They give you the same payout. Over, under, we're getting the same payout, a 3x payout. And they have the line at 22.5. And Caesars is telling us, well, first of all, the line should be lower at 19.5. And the under should be really heavily favored, minus 139. So this is a play, on ParlayPlay, it's slightly different than Underdog. Like Underdog, we said you have to win, above 55% of your over-unders to be profitable. It's a little lower on, ParlayPlay. It's something like 53.7 or maybe something like that. But anyways, next play we have is Desmond Ridder to not have an interception, right? So you look at all the sports books, pretty simple concept. They all have his under heavily favored, right? And he's horrible. The Falcons are horrible. He's horrible. But regardless, if you take a look at his interception line, you'll notice all the books have him heavily favored to go under. DraftKings minus 135. So it would make no sense to take the over when the under, you're getting the same payout, and that's the, more likely outcome. So it's like, okay, that's easy. Lamar Jackson also not to throw an interception. So we can kind of take a look here. So it's turning out to be a pretty interesting slip. We got two players to not throw an interception. And then we can go here. It's the same concept too. Like, I always recommend bet on as many sports as possible. Some people, they don't want to bet on, certain sports and stuff like that. I always recommend betting on every sport. If there's value in hockey, I want to have bets on hockey. So then we have our boy Kirill over 2 shots on goal. And there we go. So now on ParlayPlay, we have, I think on ParlayPlay, what is it? 54%. You have to win 54% of your player props to be profitable. So we found a bunch of plays, Desmond Ridder, heavily favored to go under. That's a player prop winning above 54% of the time. We found, long story short, 6 picks winning above 54% of the time. So we have a play with an edge, lock it in and kind of move on. We got college football, NHL, a bunch of different stuff. And then let's go over to PrizePicks or Underdog. You can kind of bounce around. I just kind of, see what book is offering the best value on a given day. They still have the play on Gibbs touchdown up on Underdog Fantasy. So if you're just tuning in, we have this play I locked in on Underdog. It seems like it's still available. And then we got some good picks as well on ParlayPlay. So there we go. It looks like we got some plays showing up, even some early NBA plays for opening day. So what we can do is we can go here. And of course, even if there's not a ton of value on PrizePicks for today, I still want to place this bet, even if I have to find stuff that's slightly not profitable. Because again, it's risk-free. If our bet loses, we get our money back. So you can see here, it's like, okay, what else do we got? 225. If we increase the max odds, I mean, there's some good bets on FanDuel as well. They have Marte over 1.5 hits at plus 200. Depending on the books you use. the same concepts apply, finding value, finding an edge, whatever. So plus 200 looks pretty good here on Marte over 1.5 hits. All these other books around like plus 160, plus 155. But anyways, what we can do is we can go back to PrizePicks and we can build a little slip. So the first play it's recommending is we take Carroll. So let's go here. And again, it kind of sucks because we have to place our bets for today. So there's definitely going to be some good NFL value, but it just doesn't look like, we're not going to be able to include that, at least in our first slip. So, we can just kind of start out here with 2 NHL picks, right? So we have Harper plus Carroll under, and then we have Kirill over 2 shots on goal, which we also had on ParlayPlay. And let's just fly through the risk-free play. $20 risk-free play. If it loses, we get our money back, or $25 risk-free play. And then we can get into some NFL picks on PrizePicks, as exciting as hockey is. But what we can also do is, sometimes what's great about PrizePicks is they don't change your payout. In general, I mean, they did add these payout shifts, which are pretty annoying. But in general, they don't change your payout, right? Like if based on you selecting players on the same team. So if I take Preston Stone over in passing yards, well, obviously if Preston Stone has a great game and balls out and throws for 400 yards, then Jordan Carey probably went over 38.5 receiving yards. That's his wide receiver. So it would make no sense to take Preston Stone's over and Carey's under, because we're getting a 10x payout, and that's his quarterback, right? If we want to take Stone's over, it probably makes sense to try to find some value on Carey's over. So maybe we can find a tiny bit of value in, college football player props. So this betting tool is called the Sportsbook screen. It just shows you where all the books have line set. And, sometimes there's halfway decent value in the market. So if you take a look today, right, Preston Stone, it looks like FanDuel has his line a little lower, 274.5, 265.5. So maybe a touch of value on the under. Again, not enough in general where I'd be rushing to bet this, or I would bet this even if there wasn't a promo going on, but there is a promo going on. So whatever. And then we can see receiving yards. Anything where PrizePicks is a little higher than the rest of the market, like those are plays we want to look at. So if we go here, we can go to receiving yards. And then we want to look at, you can see SMU has a ton of they have a ton of SMU wide receivers up for this game. So we have Maryland, Carey, and Bailey. So it looks like Carey's line 38.5, a touch lower on the other books. It's like, okay, like we're getting some positive correlation. Again, like this isn't anything to write home about, but still. So we can see, though, they're going to reduce my payout, which is super annoying. You can see here they recently added in these payout shifts where essentially they'll reduce your payout, which is very annoying. I'm not sure if that happens if you take overs. I'm not exactly sure when they decide to add these payout shifts. So like if we take them both to go over, then we don't get a payout shift, right? But the value was on his under, which is what's a little annoying. So what we can do is we can go here. And let's see. Let's see what we got. You can also find correlation in hockey, right? So like if I want to take Kirill over 2 shots on goal, they're playing the Flames. If you can find a spot with the Flames goalie over in saves, granted his shot on goal line is pretty low, but if you think about it for soccer, like it's like if you're going to take Michael, Zetter over 4 saves, it probably makes sense to try to find someone on the opposing team on Dortmund over 3 shots, like this guy, right? Those plays would be positively correlated. Anyways, this play pairs well, right? This play actually pairs very well. So if you take a look here, it's like we have Backlund under 3 shots on goal. So again, I would usually not venture this low on the fantasy optimizer, right? Which again is just scanning the market, pointing out discrepancies. But this is a risk-free bet, right? If we lose this bet, PrizePicks gives us our money back. So we have Backlund under 3. And these plays pair well together, right? Like if Backlund goes under 3, like if the Blue Jackets have the puck more, if the Blue Jackets are in possession of the puck more, then he's more likely to go over and he's more likely to go under. So taking hockey players on opposing teams, one to go over in shots on goal, one to go under in shots on goal, those are, positively correlated. But that doesn't help us solve our problem where we still need, ideally to be able to find something to pair with here. Are they going to move it for everything? So you can see they change your payout when you take unders, but not overs, which I don't know. Maybe that makes sense. I'm not really sure. So what we could do is we could take like, so let's refresh this. And let's see anything for today. So this game's tomorrow. So you can see there's just not a ton of crap for today. So it is a slow sports day. So what we're going to need to find is ideally just, a smidge of value. So if we're taking Carroll and Harper to go under hits plus runs plus RBIs, if we could find a play on like under and hits allowed for, well, they're not even up yet. The Phillies game isn't even up yet. The pitchers at least. So we can, pretty annoying that there's not as many games today, but we'll find 2 more picks to go with, and then let's move on to the NFL. Is what we can take is like, what do we want to take? All these games are for tomorrow. New Jersey Devils, so we have Nico Heiser, again, to score a point. Again, on PrizePicks, you have to win 54.2% of your picks to be profitable. So this play doesn't have a ton of value, but for the promo, whatever, good enough. So here we go. We have this play for today. Lamar Jackson, again, this isn't going to cut it. These plays pair pretty well together, though they would. Lamar Jackson not to throw an interception, and then Zay Flowers, Ravens receiver. We have UFC plays showing up. And then what else is available? Romeo Doubs, Seahawks. Corey Seager over 1.5 total bases. Sure, whatever. So we can go back here. And again, like this is not something I would usually bet, but I'm getting pretty sick of talking about this risk-free bet. And again, PrizePicks has me on pretty low betting limits anyways. Max bet size of $25. So I'm sure if you spent all day on the optimizer, you could find some better picks to go with. But overall, 3 of these plays seem really good. 2 of them pair well together. The other 2 plays, like kind of whatever. I mean, just trying to get something down. Now we can go on to NFL, though, which is more exciting. So, for example, the same strategy applies, when you're betting on PrizePicks as when you're betting on Underdog Fantasy. But if we look at Kenneth Walker, right, like you can see here, all the books have him pretty heavily favored to score a touchdown. Minus 150, minus 180. But again, these are one-way markets, so we kind of want to avoid them because books tend to juice up their markets when they're only one-way markets. But you can see like minus 150s. Walker is favored to score a touchdown. Also, I've been on the bad side of Walker, and he scored, I've had his under in the past 2 games because there was value on it. So maybe Walker over is a good play to go with on PrizePicks. You also have Pacheco, right? You can see Pacheco's heavily favored to not score a touchdown. So this play seems decent. And then you have Raheem, who's also heavily favored to not score a touchdown, right? Raheem and Swift. So it seems like the best plays currently available are Pacheco to not score a touchdown and Kenneth Walker to score a touchdown, right? Kenneth Walker is heavily favored to score according to the data. And again, you got to remember, everything's baked into the market. If you think you can outsmart, create better lines, better models, then Barstool and Pinnacle, all these companies that have put literally dozens of millions of dollars, full-time data scientists into their ability to set and move lines. Like, I don't know what to tell you. It's not going to happen. But anyways, we have Pacheco under, right? Heavily favored to not score a touchdown. So now we can look for some PrizePicks plays, and at least now, we can, damn, some esports plays popping up now. But anyways, what we can do is, again, only one data point, hot streak. So let's get rid of League of Legends real quickly. There's just not a ton of books posting lines right now. So next we have Curry over 4.5 threes. You can see FanDuel has his over favored. So here we got an early little, an early play for the season opener, and we got really good games. We got Warriors Suns, and then we got Lakers Nuggets for the season opener. So that play seems halfway decent, but in general, it's still pretty dry on PrizePicks, which is just how it goes sometimes. Like sometimes there's a shit ton of value everywhere, especially on Saturdays, Sundays. Zay Flowers over 4.5 receptions. So here we got a play, and we can take a look at this. So Zay Flowers over 4.5 receptions. So now we have a nice little 4-pick entry, but ideally we can find one more. So you can see all these books have his over heavily favored. It looks like Pinnacle just ripped him even higher to -150. So, the market moving, it's kind of like when a company, they make money, they have a really good earnings report, the stock price goes up. The market reflects new information that the company, is doing well, is making money. So it's the same thing here. Like books are always moving around lines. You can see these books are moving odds in general towards Zay Flowers going over. Maybe another Baltimore wide receiver is questionable, right? Maybe the weather improved. I mean, there's tons of reasons that these lines can move. So we have Zay Flowers. And then what else do we have? So let's take a look. We can refresh this. I thought there were some kicking props, but maybe those ended up moving. And then we also have this play on Desmond Ridder to not throw an interception. So it's like, okay, here we go. We already have this on ParlayPlay, but we can add it on PrizePicks as well. Again, ParlayPlay only has a max bet size of $60. So in PrizePicks, they give me barely anything. So here we go. We got a little slip. Kansas City Chargers. We got Walker to score a touchdown. We got Curry to go over 4.5 made threes. So it's like, okay, not a ton of value on PrizePicks right now. Underdog Fantasy. A lot of the same plays we kind of already went through. Although there's some new plays, but, whatever. And then we can check out the EV tool. So sometimes when there's not a lot of value on these fixed payout fantasy sites like PrizePicks, Underdog Fantasy, then I'll just bounce over to the positive EV tool and take a look at, the bets on FanDuel or something like that. Because when you're betting on FanDuel, it's a lot simpler, right? Like you don't need multiple picks. On Underdog Fantasy, you need, even if you find one pick you really like Justin Verlander over 16.5 outs, that is a high outs line for the playoffs. But you can see Underdog says, hey, you have to have at least 2 picks. Same thing with PrizePicks, right? PrizePicks, you can't just select one pick. You need at least 2 picks. PrizePicks is a parlay-only website, a parlay-only sports book. So what we can do is, check out some of these lines. So you can see there's overall a kind of slow day, but what we can do, there's some plays on Joshua Kelly, some arbitrage plays, but also taking advantage of these promos is definitely worthwhile. So if you look at what's a good example? For the Penn State-Ohio State game, FanDuel has a 50% profit boost. So plus 100 odds goes to plus 150. Is you don't want to overlook these promos. I mean, getting double the odds, that's a significant improvement. So if we go over to FanDuel and we kind of take a look. at FanDuel, we can try to find a play for this game. So if we go here, and then we want to go to, the Ohio State game, ideally, if there's any plays, what else do they have profit boost for? So sometimes you can find, they also have one for Tennessee, Alabama. I mean, they got a lot of promos available, and a lot of these promos are pretty profitable. Or at the worst case, you can turn them into, risk-free profit. So for example, all OddsJam is going to do is this tool is called the low holds tool right here. So all I'm doing is I'm going here. I'm saying, hey, I have this like promo on FanDuel. You can search for the specific game. And I'm getting a 50% profit boost, right? So the odds are going to go up by 50%. And you can see what it's recommending is we take the under 43.5 in Tennessee, Alabama. So this play, so we have under 43.5, and then we have over 43.5. So what you can do with a lot of these promos is arbitrage bet them. So you can turn them into risk-free profit, right? So the under is on FanDuel at plus 152. But remember, we're getting a 50% odds boost. So the odds go up, by 50%. So 1.5 times 152. So we're getting plus 228 odds. For most people, FanDuel has this promo. FanDuel has this promo, a $50 max bet size. So what you could do is usually, when I started sports betting, I would do this every single time, is you can hedge these promos with another sports book and make a risk-free profit. So we have the over 43.5 and we have the under 43.5. So you can see PointsBet, they have the over at minus 165. FanDuel has the under at minus 152, but with the odds boost, we're going to be getting plus 228. So what we can do is we can kind of run through the math, of like, how do you arbitrage bet this? How do you turn it into a risk-free profit? So if you go over here to calculators, on PointsBet, we're getting the under or the over at minus 165, right? And on FanDuel, we're getting the under with the promo boost for 228, and that's a $50 max bet, right? So you can turn this promo into a risk-free $12, right? On FanDuel with the odds boost, we're going to be getting the under at plus 228. And on PointsBet, we're getting the over at minus 165. So the calculator tells us hedge. If you hedge on PointsBet, right? So put your promo, your $50 promo at plus 228 odds with the boost on the under, and then go bet the over on PointsBet at minus 165, and you'll make a risk-free profit of $11.89 if you hedge on PointsBet with a bet size of 102.11. But usually I recommend rounding your numbers, right? So I'm not going to bet 102.11. I usually would round this to $100. Don't want to sketch out the sports books. So usually I just try to round my bet sizes. And then I'll show you how you can turn this promo into a risk-free profit of about 10 to 15 bucks, depending on if the game goes over or under. I mean, this is the easiest money you're going to make sports betting. This promo is worth a risk-free, $10. Just putting in the time to arbitrage bet it. It's the easiest money ever. So if the game goes over on PointsBet, we win 100 times 100 over 165. We bet $100 at minus 165 odds. So we're up 61 bucks. On FanDuel, we're down 50. We're up $11 in profit. Now, if the game goes under, we lose $100 on PointsBet, and we win $50 times 228 odds. So 228 divided by 100, 2.28. So we go up $14. So no matter what, we make a risk-free $11 or $14. Again, just taking advantage of this profitable profit boost on FanDuel. 50% is a lot. You can turn all these 50% boosts into a risk-free $10, $15. Again, sometimes you can look harder and find better plays. But all these 50% profit boosts, same thing for Penn State, Ohio State. Even if you're like, I'm not sure what I want to bet. I don't want to hit the game. I want to hold off. You can use that profit boost, then hedge on another sports book, arbitrage bet the profit boost with another sports book to make a risk-free profit. So, arbitrage betting is a great strategy. Sometimes there's better arbitrage bets than others. So like, here's another play. This one's between, PointsBet and DraftKings. And again, depending on where you're located, you're going to use different sports books, right? So that's kind of what's tricky about it. So you can see here, minus 160 is South Florida plus 3.5. So with arbitrage betting, you're always getting equal and opposite outcomes. We're always betting equal and opposite outcomes. So these are equal and opposite outcomes, right? South Florida plus 3.5, and then UConn minus 3.5. So we have UConn minus 3.5, who I'm used to thinking about in basketball, UConn, but you can see DraftKings has them at plus 170, and then PointsBet has this at minus 160. So then it just kind of depends on your bankroll. Maybe you're like, oh, I'll arb this for $250 or $300 or $500. It depends on your bankroll. When I started arbitrage betting, I was doing them for like $50. Just kind of grew my bankroll, make a risk-free $2. You got to remember, this takes very little time. So let's say, though, on DraftKings, you hit this for $500. On PointsBet for $830, you're going to make a risk-free $19.23. And we can go through the math again. So these are equal and opposite outcomes. Either South Florida is going to cover the spread or UConn's going to cover the spread. If UConn wins by 4+, this bet wins. UConn minus 3.5. South Florida plus 3.5 will lose. So you're always going to win one bet, lose one bet when you're arbitrage betting. So if South Florida covers the spread on PointsBet, we're up 830 that we bet at minus 160 odds. 830 times 100 over 160. We're up $519. On DraftKings, we're down $500. We're up $19 in profit. Now, on the other hand, if UConn does cover the spread, they win by 4 or more, we lose 830 on PointsBet, our bet on South Florida plus 3.5. And again, I rounded this arbitrage calculator just to 830. Why bet 830.77? Sketch out the sports books. On DraftKings, we're up 500 times 1.7. $500 bet at plus 170 odds. We make $20 no matter what. That's arbitrage betting. And of course, books have different betting limits, kind of stuff like that, but still a really good strategy depending on where you're located. Sometimes and what time of day, you never know when the best arbitrage bets are going to occur. Sometimes it's after injuries. If a player gets injured, sometimes lines start to move around. There's some pretty good arbitrage bets. And you can see there's some good bets as well popping up on Caesars, college football, but in general, pretty slow day, which is a little surprising considering, we have a ton of college football tomorrow, but there's not a lot of MLB. And when the NBA picks up next week, it's going to be crazy. So we're getting a little break from placing 100 bets on these live streams. So here, over 10.5 first quarter total points, this seems crazy value. Pinnacle has this at plus 107, plus 102. But anyways, we'll call it a day for now. Hopefully this live stream was helpful. We got some good bets on PrizePicks, Underdog Fantasy, everything like that. Thanks so much for your time.